Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Climb to 2000 series. Today we're going to be going over some of the few games that we've won, and the theme of today is never resign, especially at this elo or lower. People are always going to make blunders, even if you have a mildly losing position in the middle game or even in the opening and you lose a piece, there's always a chance your opponent can always blunder. So let's take a look here. We're facing a 1505. We get the Karo Khan, bring our queen out. We trade out this knight here, thinking that maybe there's going to be a tactic in the middle of the board by checking his king, but he correctly brings out the bishop. We were thinking that maybe if he brought back the knight to cover, we could win a pawn, but he correctly brings the bishop back, so we don't win a pawn in that situation. Moving forward, we're trying to attack these center pawns here. He's doubling his rooks, getting very active. And here, we miscount. We were considering that if we take this pawn, he takes, we take back, we have an in-between move at some point. If he were to go here, we have an in-between move, taking a pawn and then taking a bishop, or taking the knight. But he correctly takes with the knight, which is not something that we had considered fully, and we are now down a piece. So be careful, make sure you count the pieces, make sure you think of your opponent's all of the various moves that they can play against your tactic that you think you're trying to create. So now we're just down a piece in endgame. We're playing queen and rook versus queen, bishop, and rook. And here we're just trying to create some counterplay, get on their second rank, trying to create as much confusion as we can. And here they allow us to check the king. Our rook is attacked, so after he covers the check, we are going to have to probably move the rook. Here we take the pawn, so now he's already given us back 2 pawns for the piece. If we take back 1 more pawn, we're technically up material, although I would say that maybe we're doing better, only because his bishop is a light squared bishop, and we have all our pawns on light squares. So the position is definitely playable. At this point, I was thinking I definitely don't want to resign. He could blunder something. My pawns are pretty strong. I still have a rook. So we keep going. We actually trade the rook off with the idea that I can take this center pawn. So now we are technically equal in material, and we're still threatening other things. Now what I'm looking at is if he tries to block or if he tries to move, I want to pin this bishop to his queen so that he has less activity, and I would be threatening this pawn. So then we go and do that. He actually gives us a pawn with the idea that he wants to kind of break our pawn structure near our king. Now here we make a threat. The threat being we're going to move these pawns up. This is defended, and we are planning to play this move to e4, forking his queen and his bishop. Now he takes here. Because we don't want to allow queen to f7 check and then checkmate, we have to take back that pawn. And then he, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, blunders his queen. And this is one of the reasons that you can't resign, even at this elo at 1500. I think probably up until, like, my guess is that until, like, 2000, 2200, they'll stop just blundering their queen in one move, but who knows. Here, my opponent does resign. A queen versus a bishop is pretty overwhelming material advantage, so we get the win, even though we were completely losing in the middle game. Let's check out the next game. This one is, here we go. So we are playing against a 1510. We get white, we play e4, we play the Italian. We get this trade in the center. We take here, and then all of a sudden he plays this bishop move. I think this is a game that we didn't necessarily get a losing position, but our opponents, even at 1510, are playing some probably unsound bishop sacrifices, so it ends up working out in our favor. So we take here, he attacks, and he forgets completely that while he's checking me, the knight that took a piece here can actually come back and just guard the king by blocking. So that's exactly what I do. He goes here trying to develop his pieces. We want to develop our pieces just as quickly so we can make a tempo move attacking the queen. And then he moves, and now we get all our pieces into the game. Our knight is now protected, and we're doing well. Here he's attacking our knight and bishop. Everything's protected, so we're not really concerned. So here we just bring our queen to the center. Our rooks are now connected. Everything is defended multiple times. And now we're actually threatening to win the knight. So he has to make a move here. He actually attacks our bishop here. Now here I play this move, I believe, and I think maybe there's a better move like going here. The bishop would still be protected by the queen, and that just keeps the bishop in the center, kind of protecting everything as well. He goes here, checking our king. And then after some moves, we're looking to trade the queens off if we can, and then just use our piece advantage to trade everything down. And here he castles queenside, and we can take his bishop. So he does that. He actually blunders a knight here. So now he's just losing completely. We attack his queen with the rook. He takes it. I don't know if he saw or not that it was defended twice. And then our queen gets taken. So it's essentially just a queen trade. Here we were looking at moves like forking the two rooks. So we want to put pressure on the pinned piece. Once the knight moves, we can take that. And here it was just a matter of conversion, getting our pieces in the game. And then here finally trading off one of the rooks. So then it'll just be 3 pieces against a rook. And that should be an overwhelming advantage. We eventually are able to take everything down, slowly move up, push our pawns. We're trying to keep all the pieces on the board here that we can, just in case, so that if we blunder something. And then he finally trades down the exchange with bishop for rook. And now we're totally winning. We are able to make a queen and win the game with checkmate on the board. Probably could have done it a lot faster, honestly, so I probably need to work on my technique there. The last game, I think it's this one. Yeah, so this one was intense. I don't know what he was thinking towards the end, but so we got a Carl Khan. He actually gambits a pawn here the compensation being that he can bring out his knight early, and we immediately pin the knight. Often in the Carl Khan, that's what you're going to do, especially with any kind of exchange in the center. And here we actually make a pretty big mistake that he doesn't see and doesn't capitalize on. So here he can take this f7 pawn with check, and if I take, he actually just won a pawn and mess up my castling opportunities, because now he can go check with the knight here, and that's a fork of the king and the bishop, and the bishop is attacked twice. So even if he takes and I take, he can take again, and then he's just up a piece. Or he's up a pawn, I believe. Let me see. Take, so he's down a piece, check. Yeah, so I think there he is just, he's just up a pawn, but my king is exposed. I can't castle. My rook is going to have a hard time getting into the game. And now, thankfully, he misses it. And now that his bishop is here, and my knight is here protecting the square, this is not really as much of an option, because if he were to do it, I take. This check is met with this knight, so that tactic doesn't exist anymore. And now I finally blunt the bishop, something I should have done probably on move 4, I believe. And then we make some moves here. I think looking back, I should have taken with the bishop, kind of challenging this diagonal, so that he can't just maintain this bishop here, which is going to create a pin that we'll see is very annoying. So here, takes. And then now we got ourselves into a position here where we go here, he takes, we take, he takes, we take back. And now we are technically up a pawn in an endgame, a heavy rook and queen endgame. So here we took some pawns, we're still up a pawn, he goes there. And now slowly, though, we start getting ourselves into a slightly losing position, I believe. Let's get the analysis. Let's get the eval bar here. So here, he's already +3. And I can kind of feel that because he has a lot of pressure here on my b7 pawn. His king looks exposed to me, but this diagonal isn't open, so it's hard to exploit that. And then we try to get our pieces in the game to form some kind of attack, but now he's creating lots of threats here. We take the pawn with the idea that maybe we can do some checks. I'm looking at maybe something like this, check. He goes here, check. And then at this point, I was honestly trying to just get a perpetual and draw the game because I knew it was a totally losing position. Material is equal, but his activity and the back rank threats here are just far too strong. So then I go here, checking. Here, trying to create some kind of attack. Now, you can see by the eval bar, he is totally winning here. And I could, this isn't a position you would resign, but the advantage that he has is pretty overwhelming. Here he creates a threat. You may think he's just blocking this file, but he's actually creating checkmate threats here. Once I move, he can actually check, takes, check, mate because I have too many back rank issues here. I push trying to avoid that threat, and now he's just trying to create a queen and win the game, and that is a totally winning move, so good on him. I go here, though, with the thought that if he pushes making a queen, I can just take his rook, and then I can create the same perpetual check that I had before, and actually have a rook here, and maybe I can do something, although this will always be pinned to the king, so I won't be able to move the rook, but maybe I can just keep checking him back and forth. He pushes this pawn, I go somewhere like this, check, 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 and just keep the game alive and make a draw out of a losing position. And then he moves his rook there to a much more passive square. And now I'm thinking I have to stop this from promoting. His rook is less active now. There's no threats from the rook. So now let's move my queen to f5. And now he can't promote. He can take a pawn here, but I think then at least we'll have some chances. He goes here, queen d5, check, blundering a queen in one move. Now he goes from plus 4.6 to negative 8. I think the computer is still thinking. It's going up now to 9.2. So even at this elo, thinking that I have a completely losing position, he has a queen that's going to be promoting. All he has to do is get his other pieces, in, like his rook, into a more active square, maybe start pushing his pawns, and he's totally winning. But even at this elo, they're going to make mistakes like this in one move. So never resign. That's the lesson I'm learning here. I think I was, before this, resigning far too often and giving away lots of rating points just by thinking that, oh, my opponent's up a piece, I'm lost, he's going to convert it. But you got to make your opponents prove that they can convert it. A lot of them can't, and a lot of them can't go too many moves before they make a mistake. So never resign. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. We got some interesting content coming up with a coaching session with a coach that I've been using online that I think is helping me climb a little bit further and a little bit faster than I would have otherwise. So stay tuned.